Along the banks of the Columbia River, where its mighty waters flow, lies the quaint town of Avalon. If you're new here, my name's Diana, and welcome to Cascadia Bay, a City Skylines series set in the Pacific Northwest. We've got a really exciting episode today as we're crossing the bridge into the state of Washington to start a brand new town. While Avalon is entirely fictional, the real-world inspiration for much of the layout and design is the small town of Ilwaco, which is just to the west of the real-life location of this map. To get off the bridge from Astoria, I'm making a small trumpet interchange, manually drawing it in to fit the tight space and awkward curves. For the layout of the town, we're doing a small 10-unit by 10-unit grid, roughly mirroring the alignment of the straight section of the main highway, State Route 401, and then deviating from the grid a bit to follow the natural curvature of the terrain where appropriate. I'm also creating a small harbor where we'll build a marina, preparing the entire area for development. I started by placing this strip of commercial buildings along the waterfront with parking behind it. This is directly inspired by this row of shops in Ilwaco, but also somewhat resembles the real-life Riverwalk area of Astoria, Oregon, in which this map is based off of. For most of the homes in Avalon, I'm selecting historic early 20th century style housing, which seems to be quite common in this part of the country. Most of the streets in Avalon do not have sidewalks, and the town is essentially a tightly packed grid of rural blocks. Having been to this part of Washington a grand total of once in my life, I'm sort of going off of memory here, trying to nail down the general essence of a small Pacific Northwest coastal town. Closer to the harbor, I created this large empty lot, which I imagine is sort of a multi-purpose storage facility, likely owned by the municipal government as a place to keep various types of equipment, trucks, boats, and other goods. Fourth Street is the main commercial corridor of Avalon, and one of the few streets that actually has sidewalks and is somewhat maintained. Downtown Avalon is quite old and a little neglected overall, with many of the businesses here dating back to the founding of the city in the 19th century. Again, much of the style I'm going for here is reminiscent of downtown Ilwaco, in particular this area. Avalon is a tight-knit community, and it doesn't see much in the way of tourism or outside investment of any kind. So many of its residents commute into the larger cities of Astoria and Arcadia across the river, leaving its downtown often forgotten about by those who do not live in its immediate vicinity. Fire is raging deep inside, and my heartstrings are pulling like the tide, and the match that drew a spark was a single stolen kiss. And if that ain't love, I don't know what is. Further to the east along 4th Street is another small node of activity. With a mix of more modern-style retail uses, a post office, school, and a few churches, the majority of residents of Avalon live in its eastern half, which is somewhat more suburban in character, with more modern-style homes having been built in the past 50 years or so. This part of town is a little more upscale and quieter than the neighborhoods directly adjacent to downtown and the harbor, although still overall mostly middle class, like much of the rest of Avalon. It is on the town's east side, where the majority of those who commute across the river each day reside. 'Cause now wildfire is raging deep inside, and my heartstrings are pulling like the turning of the tide, and the match that drew the spark was a single stolen kiss. And if that ain't love, I don't know what is. If that ain't love, Community Park. A favorite amongst Eastside residents, is a great place to relax, walk around, or play some sports with friends and family. With its lush green spaces, well-maintained walking paths, and an array of amenities, Avalon Community Park caters to diverse interests and age groups. Whether one seeks a peaceful retreat to reconnect with nature, a leisurely stroll to clear the mind, or a spirited game of baseball or soccer, this park delivers on every front. The well-manicured grounds provide ample room for relaxation, while meticulously designed play areas and sports facilities offer endless opportunities for energetic fun and friendly competition. From picnics under the shade of towering trees to impromptu gatherings on the spacious grassy fields, Avalon Community Park has firmly established itself as a cherished haven where unforgettable memories are created and the joy of community thrives. Logging and forestry is historically the largest industry in Avalon. With a small sawmill just outside of town, lumber and other forestry products are shipped directly from the sawmill's dedicated shipping dock to be processed and sent off to the outside world at the nearby port of Arcadia across the river, as well as shipped overland via truck to Avalon and the rest of the Cascadia Bay region. The Pacific Logging Corporation has its headquarters in Avalon proper, but the real action takes place just east of town, where the company owns large swaths of natural pine forests.
Thought I heard it so, to up and leave this town, head out west they say, maybe California, and leave this dead land behind. So long, Oklahoma.
These forests are sustainably harvested, with 5 new trees being planted for every one that is cut down. The company, being a co-op owned and operated by its employees, has committed itself to maintaining these pristine forests to the best of its ability, while also providing well-paying blue-collar jobs to the community. To make the dedicated shipping docks, I used an asset that is a blank cargo harbor that connects to outside shipping lines and spawns cargo ships, and then added in this nice-looking brick quay wall around it to give it a rustic, industrial feel.
With my own 2 hands, tall timber falling, I hear Tulsa calling, saying, won't you come back when you can? So
I then decorated the harbor with a few cranes and shipping equipment to make it look more alive. I'm not sure how true to life a complex is like this to the forestry industry in this part of the world, but it sure does look nice.
Dreaming of that road used to be.
You made me so light, rushing like the...
Forestry products are not solely shipped via boat and truck. Rail is also a crucial component of transport for industrial goods of all types in Avalon. This railyard exists on the eastern edge of town, connecting Avalon to the national network of cargo rail, including Seattle to the north and Portland to the east. This small rail hub is an important stop for trains just beginning their cross-country journeys. There is a small storage yard and a few warehouses near the rail yard, where even more processed timber products are stored, ready to be sent off to the outside world to be used to construct homes and make consumer goods of all types.
Why does the sun keep on shining? Doesn't it know that I'm dying?
I've been using the vanilla train tracks in this build And while they generally look nice, I've always thought the electric wires overhead didn't look the most realistic for a US-style city. The other day I was watching a video by Few Candy in which she built a rail yard in her city, and she used the network skins mod to remove the overhead wires. I had no idea that you could do that with this mod, so that was probably the coolest thing I've learned in a while. So big shout out to her for that tip. So I went ahead and upgraded most of the train tracks in this build to remove the wires, as most American trains don't have them to the best of my knowledge. I'm adding in a few prop train cars to the area, taking advantage of the line tool mod to make everything straight. Because trains won't actually use the extra tracks in the rail yard, it's nice to have these props to make it feel a little more busy.
Why does the sun keep on shining? Doesn't it know that I'm dying? Give it up, I wanna be
I also took some time to fill out the rest of the residential blocks in Avalon proper, using a diverse mix of housing types with some mobile homes in key areas to represent lower income parts of town, as well as more historical and modern suburban style homes. Varying up the types of housing like this gives the town a more realistic feel, as if it developed over time and isn't limited to just one architectural style. The lone sailor expertly guides his sailboat through Avalon Harbor. The small marina, embraced by the picturesque town of Avalon, invites wanderers seeking solace upon the water. Among the array of boats that bob gently in the harbor, with weathered hands gripping the wooden wheel, he harnesses the power of the wind, gliding across the river's shimmering surface. The canvas sails billow gracefully, capturing the essence of freedom as he navigates the currents.
So you told me come on over, and we'll sing a sweet refrain. And the world was turning slower, I can't explain.
The pride of Avalon. The harbor is the center of life in this small town. With hundreds of sailboats and motorboats used for recreation and fishing, nearly everyone in town owns a boat of some type, many of which have been in families for generations. Near the harbor, industrial goods and building materials are stored to later be distributed to local shops to stock their shelves, and plain timber is available for sale in bulk to those who wish to use it for home improvement, construction, or to fix their leaky boats. Creating this breakwater was one of the most challenging builds I've ever done in City Skylines. The rock network is quite awkward to work with, as it's technically classified as a key wall, but does not conform to terrain at all.
You singing in a photograph, and I didn't know your name. It seems so long ago.
I had to play with it a lot, using invisible terraforming networks to make sure that the terrain was just right. I think it came out great. Although its small size and tightly gridded design makes it somewhat walkable, the only method of public transit that exists in Avalon is the ferry, which goes to the Skip-It-On Harbor Ferry Terminal in the city of Arcadia. It is from there most commuters who choose not to drive are able to access the greater regional public transit network. The assets I'm using for the ferry stop and depot are these small piers, which I felt looked much nicer and more understated than the vanilla buildings. They fit perfectly along the side of the marina next to the parking lot, creating a nice little park and ride for commuters to leave their car for the day.
I'm never gonna let you down, and darling, you should know, as long as we keep turning round, I'll never let you go.
was at this point that I wanted to add a nice little touch of realism to the build. I feel like adding signage to the road makes things that I make in city skylines feel a little more like they're real places, and not just imaginary video game cities. So I used procedural objects to add this simple exit sign next to the sign welcoming drivers into the state of Washington, giving them directions on how to reach the quaint little town of Avalon. At the time of editing this video, I reached 10,000 subscribers, which is an exciting milestone. I appreciate you all for supporting the channel and taking the time to watch this video. And if it is your first time watching my content, I do a mix of modded builds, tutorials, and satirical story-driven content. If any of that is your thing, start here. And as always, don't forget to like and subscribe for more of Cascadia Bay.